Hi, I'm here to talk about Rachel Dolezal. Um, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually look at some original documents that I found hither and yon on the internet, and I'm going to discuss the items that are here. I am specifically the two main topics I'm going to cover with relationship to what has happened to her, and then I'll go into my opinion afterwards as to what it is. I'm going to discuss, for the most part, the the threat letters, and I'm going to look at original documents to do this. I'm also going to interject my opinion in some cases. Um, I know of at least one thing I'm going to contradict with what the police have said. It sounds brave, but I don't think it's all that unreasonable. Then I'm gonna see what I could do about talking about the second. That seems to be a separate, unrelated event, but at the same time, it's kind of like, when the second plane struck the World Trade Center, we knew that the first plane didn't hit the World Trade Center on accident. It's freaky the way everything seems to have turned out here. Um, and there just doesn't seem to be really much against her, at least with what I'm looking at, with where the complaints are. If the public has real complaints about what the things that she's said, specifically, they should really address that instead of just trying to side attack her and just give her hell for nothing. I'm completely against this. There's been times other people have been brought forth in front of the public and just, um, not to insinuate that the people that I've looked into are by any means Jesus Christ, but they seem to have been crucified, and there seems to be some kind of just mob mentality going on. And there's a media machine combined with the government machinery and just a hell-blazing storm of public opinion that seems to rage out of control, and suddenly an individual that was seemingly just kind of breezing along in her life has now found herself um, doing only about 1/3 of the things she usually did, um, for reasons that at least to me right now at this stage, look spurious. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm not doing this to say that necessarily anybody has, at least that has come to light or that has acted in official capacity. I'm not here to persecute the various people that have interacted with Dolezal. I'm just here to make the case to say, well, this is what really happened, and she may not be as bad as everybody's saying she is. And that's really what I think it is. I think it's people that are getting crucified, and it goes back for years. This has been happening in our country. It happened in World War II. It's been our Otto Kuhn. In my opinion, with the Monica Lewinsky case, there was no reason why, in general, that the machinery of a government or the media should have this, um, out of control power to disrupt people's lives and just leave it in devastation, and with the after, just a giant pile of public ridicule and fighting against the rage that comes to people just by surprise, by chance, that they've decided to do things that some people don't like, or maybe different or risky, but shouldn't be really. The punishment shouldn't be worldwide public ridicule on the and the loss of positions of trusts. And so the first thing I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to look at some evidence, and I will talk about some of the background of some of this evidence, as close to the evidence as I can do, and then I'll comment on them, and I'll relate them to the information. Then after we look at the evidence, we'll look at some of the newspaper reports, and then we'll look at some of the public opinions, and we'll see whether she's been treated fairly, or even close to fairly, actually. So again, if the real gripe for a lot of people that are against her is that, she's a Caucasian that has taken on a African American persona, why not just be honest and admit that's what's bothering you rather than just making stuff up? If she's saying things that you feel are unfair in the African American Studies classes that you take with her, or whatever subject she teaches, kind of like, when I watch The Brown-Eyed, Blue-Eyes Woman, which I'll do a snippet of later to make a point, and this will probably be divided into several videos. Basically, to drive home the point is what I think very rude is, but also just for that reason. It's gonna be. I'm gonna play some video from some of the council meetings. I'm gonna try to refrain from. I'm gonna try to keep this focused on just presenting what happened to her. So, in general, Rachel Dolezal is a college-educated woman that has a professorship over at the University of Eastern Washington, if I have that right. There's a lot of facts here, so I may be close on a lot of them. I like looking at documents because that way it's right there. But there's so many different factors related to this case that I could have wheelbarrows full, and I'm not interested in doing that. I'm going to start with this. Had a job. She's tried to volunteer for the community, not only with the NAACP, but with the City of Spokane Police Ombudsman Commission, and she was the chair of that for a while. She has been relieved of her duty as the chair for really two things have happened here. There are two separate events that look that look like it's a coordinated attack. I'm sorry, but I have no proof of that. But it just looks coordinated. It looks coordinated, but it doesn't mean it's coordinated. It make that very clear. So, the first incident were the hate letters that were sent to her, and the complaints and the research, investigation into that, and conclusions drawn, etc. The second incident was her removal from the Police Ombudsman Commission committee from Spokane, Washington. And there was a report that was drawn up, and then there's evidence that was provided to back up that report. And then I'm just gonna be realistic. Okay. Now, with my exercise of realism, I may be really saying in disguise, well, perhaps some of these ordinances as they're written really aren't realistic with relationship to the Police Ombudsman Commission. Of course, I have no relationship to Spokane. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm qualified to make recommendations to committees that are far off. But I will say that when I make my comments, I'm not I'm not, trying to say that, well, people should have acted differently necessarily, unless I have a good reason to draw that conclusion. Um, I think it was the perfect storm in the second situation that took place. And I think Rachel Dolezal had some awful bad luck. You may roll your eyes at that, but why not look at the evidence yourself and draw your own conclusions? So the first set of documents I have here, and this was downloaded from one of these. I mean, the evidence that I have has come from maybe 3 or 4 newspapers, one television station, and they all seem to have their own little collection of Dolezal documents, and just put them together, to analyze. I have no reason to think they're not authentic. So this basically all this first packet is, and I probably have way too many documents. All I'm really trying to show is what's displayed here. The fact that Rachel Dolezal was, as a member of the police ombudsman commission of the city of Spokane, traveled to Oakland, left on February 17th, 2015, and returned to Spokane. I guess it's Spokane. I'm not from Washington, so what this is about is me trying to, just to be clear, I'm here to talk about a human being who I think has been mistreated. So, I'm not here to say, well, this, for example, which I would never do anyway, but for example, I don't like this travel authorization form. It should look different. I'm not here to do that kind of stuff. I'm here to talk about just an individual that I feel has been mistreated. I mean, that doesn't mean I don't think that the individual that had complained about her was not mistreated either. So it's just, I just think they're, in general, without being specific about how I could formulate this idea as to exactly how the perfect storm happened with the commission, I just feel that the circumstances were such, at least as of now, preliminarily, that things were set up to fail, basically. So people would end up being frustrated, not on purpose. It's just hard to imagine when you first make an institution how that institution is going to operate, what level of staffing you need, what the proper rules for people are. That all has to be felt out. And since it was new, and I haven't read the full report, but I will take the time to question the report, just to be fair, as a part of just looking at original documents. That's what you do. You don't take a report's word for it, but you look at the original documents if and when you can. So all this really does is prove that she was okay. So this is a form, right? Just to give you the idea of what level of detail I'm willing to go into here. So there's a form. It says we're leaving on the 17th, come back on the 19th. Well, what evidence do we have to back that up? Here's a reimbursement check that was issued to her April 10th. Here is Smart Taxi Web. Apparently she took a taxi on the 19th. Here is the Inn at Jack London Square is a hotel in Oakland. I live probably 100 miles from Oakland. So I know there's a Jack London Square in Oakland, and so I would assume, there's room 130. She stayed here on February 17th and 18th, 2015. That seems right. The night of, right? Flew out on Delta, I suppose. February 17th. Stayed the night of the 18th, because she needed to, and then she was going to return on the 19th. here's, just a meal, $40, on the 19th, day of departure, and on the 18th, another. She ate once each day, about $40, $374 of charges to the city for her to go down, and from the video recordings, I understand that this was or what it says here, this is training for the commissioners of the Office of the Police Ombudsman. OPO is short for that. I guess the presenter is ILEAA, and it's entitled Risk Management and Law Enforcement from February 18th through 19th. So apparently there was a reason for her to go, and for the city to reimburse her for this. Okay, so in general, we've established the fact that Rachel Dolezal was in Oakland, California from February 17th, that's February 17th, to February 19th. Okay, so now let's get to this incident report. I think, in all honesty, this is a incident report that I was able to download from one of the newspapers or TV stations. I think it was the TV station that had this up there. It's got some of her personal information, but here we are. Is Rachel Dolezal. I am purposely obstructing some of the bottom part because they didn't redact her cell phone number, and I'm sure there are many other people that have this, but I will not put that on YouTube if I can help it. I may be stupid and throw it to the side and have my camera on there, but whatever. It's she's a human being, and she shouldn't have to change all of her phone numbers just because of what happened here. Okay, so let's get back to this. So this was a report, and I guess I'll peek here. So basically on February 26, 2015, this would be a 5:50, I'm assuming that's PM, and a copy of this was sent to the FBI, which is very good. In this case, I'm very happy for the FBI to get a copy of this. So this was right. She returned on the 19th. This would be 6 days later. Okay. So this would have been an officer writing down the narrative of what happened when he responded to a call with his partner, I assume. And he arrived at her house, which unfortunately the address is here. She introduced herself as the president of the Spokane NAACP and the chair of the Spokane Police Ombudsman's Office. Now, just to go back for a second here, I don't get this tone at all, but just to be even-handed, okay? I don't get this tone anywhere in this whole thing. But to be even-handed, you're not just talking to anybody. You're talking to someone that actually is in charge of a committee to oversee the work you're doing. Perhaps if you do the wrong, if you do the wrong thing, perhaps the wheels can go in motion and things can turn out badly for you. Now, I have no evidence of that even happened. I'm just mentioning that. It was almost kind of stupid for me to mention it because it's really not germane to this. But I probably should want to be even-handed. So basically it says, okay, 1945, she checked her P.O. box for the NAACP. Checked the P.O. box for the NAACP. You got to be careful there. That's the NAACP's P.O. box, not hers. She had the key for it. She's the president of it. So she went to the P.O. box to check to see what was in there. Inside was a letter addressed to the Spokane and addressed to her. Written on the envelope is highlighted. You know, just to pause here. I would just gather, I'm taking this for granted, actually, that if one wanted to write a letter to the Spokane NAACP, they probably could look it up on the web and they will find an address, and I am guessing that it's going to be this P.O. box that's here. Okay. Whether that mentions right now, let's just do this. Now that she resigned, it may not see attention from Rachel. It's only been a few days, so let's see. Just look at all the evidence. Why not? Let's just do the whole thing. So we have where's the contact? Oh, this looks like a so it's saying that it's 25 West Main Street, Suite 239. Mailing address. Come on. See, a lot of this is going to be related to her story. What's this? Okay, contact us. Let's try this. Give us a call. What? Oh, here we. Okay, so it's saying here it says 25 West Main Avenue. Now I don't know if this has changed in the past few days. Suite 239. So it's okay. So what do we have here? I'm gonna peek at some of the evidence ahead of time. Actually, so what were they doing here? 25 West Main Avenue, number 239. This that would have, I would assume, would go directly to them. 24. Okay, that's not. That's the police. Sure, we're gonna get to all that stuff, but fortunately, I don't believe we actually have a copy of the original letter that doesn't have the date stamp on it. And some of the parts of the letter that arrived are just like, pictures have been taken of it, but it hasn't really been released. Okay, so or I haven't looked for it or found it, basically. So what can I say except to assume that a letter addressed to that address will actually go to this P.O. box? I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to see the original envelope to know whether it was addressed to a P.O. box, and maybe he'll mention it here, or it was actually addressed to 25 West Main Avenue, Suite 239, and as a result, there's some kind of mechanism at the post office that causes it to go into the P.O. box. I don't know. So I just have to, they're based on the evidence, and just on the evidence, that's what we got to do. Alright, so then inside the envelope was a packet with various political news articles. There was also several, and he'll describe this very well, if not here, later. Several graphic photographs of black individuals being hanged. There was one page of the photograph of a male and female holding firearms, pointing toward the reader. The male, I suppose, would be this, because these are photographs that were embedded in some news article. I downloaded the JPEG and printed them out. So is that that perhaps could be the mail they're talking about? Let's see, where are we? Firearms point towards the rear. Next to these photos was printed, "No more hesitation." That doesn't say no more. Okay. Rachel took these photographs to be a threat to her. She pointed out on one page on which was a photograph of herself. And I think it also mentioned Delbert Belton and continue with its race-based theme. These might be the page. Unclear. These might be the pages. Is this her? This is March 3rd. No, this couldn't be it. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I don't think I have any. The only thing we have is a description here. It also mentioned Delbert Belton and came with the okay. Throughout the packet was written "War Pig," and as you can see in some of the later stuff, it still has this "War Pig" in subsequent documents that were sent. And that'll be very important, and we're going to do a little bit of critical thinking about this. Where are we? War Pig in both handwritten, marker, and print. On one page, read a quote, "With our flash mob ammo clips and our 49er necktie party ropes, we, the people, will take our country back." And that's, I guess, was in caps. On one page, read a quote. Okay, "I asked Rachel if she had recently been having problems with anyone." It seems like a reasonable. I'm not saying that these officers did anything unreasonable. I'm saying, but I'll still comment. It's a reasonable question to ask. Has there anybody been? You having a dispute with anybody recently? She told me she hadn't been recently, but she had been accosted by various racist groups in the past for her role in NAACP. She could not think of anyone whom she'd come into contact with that she believed might have sent the packet. Rachel thought the packet with the photographs of individuals holding firearms and various photographs of people being hanged were a direct threat to her. That's not unreasonable. Get something in the mail from someone you don't know with a bunch of pictures of guns and hangings. I would take that as a threat letter. I advised her that I would place the packet on property to be fingerprinted. He gave Rachel a crime victim card with the incident number and my name and number on it. And I advised Sergeant Ennis and placed packet in an envelope and properties evidence to be fingerprinted. So this was on the 25th, and I guess this is 2029. That would be what time? 8, almost 8:30 at night. Not that it matters, but probably after sundown. Okay, so let's go. There's more. This one, first one was written on, I suppose, February 26th down here. On March 4th, we have a now this is another detective apparently. As the end of this report, the status was pending further investigation. Someone else apparently looked over. For some reason I missed it. I thought it was a statement, but this is Zach Stormont. Okay, so they have other people look at these reports. So on 2/26/05, this must be the next day. I received a telephone call from Sergeant Furtakis. He told me that he had just assigned me a complaint of malicious harassment and asked that I see what could be done with a letter. I'm getting this. Pardon me a second while I check. Militia asked to see if I could, what could be done with a letter that had been sent to the victim. Furtakis told me that the victim, Dolezal, was the head of the NAACP. The threat letter had been sent to her P.O. box. Now here's one thing that I do not have clear, and I'm remembering some of the things that come up here. So there's going to be some speculation about whether someone had walked into the spoken number. Check, see where I'm at. So here's a little technical secret here. If my video gets bigger than 2 gigs, I lose it all. So I am going to check this once in a while. And when it gets close, I'm going to start another one. Because that's the limit for the file size, and I guess I'm going overkill in the resolution here. But anyway, so I'd remembered that there is going to be some speculation, so I'm not reading this right now, that perhaps someone had walked into the post office and handed the letter to, this is speculation, right? This was a scenario they were going to investigate, okay, that later didn't pan out so well. Perhaps someone had walked in, handed the letter to a postal worker, who then, it was supposed, put the letter into a P.O. box. And going back to the website there that we just looked at, it doesn't have a P.O. box as its address. It has the address of the office, their office, in the contact section. I didn't, now they may have changed it, but if it was that way, if it's still that way from a few days ago, I mean, there were some pictures of Rachel Dolezal on the web page, so they probably didn't change it, but there's no guarantee of that. They probably would change things of a higher priority, which would be the address that they felt they needed to. Who knows? Have no information about what choices they would make. But assuming that website has not changed, it's only been about a week, and it wouldn't make any sense to have the envelope be addressed to anything but the office, not the P.O. box. And so actually, when I think about it, the idea of someone walking in and handing the letter to a postal worker, the individual handing the letter to the postal worker, well, first of all, why wouldn't they just put it in a mailbox outside rather than bother a postal worker? But this person, if it's contradictory. It almost seems like the fact that the NAACP had a P.O. box literally is inside knowledge. So an unknown person would not have, I don't know if this is true, but if it was only inside knowledge of the NAACP that they had a P.O. box, then only someone that worked at the NAACP would have walked in and said, "Hi, I know it's addressed to this, but I know we have a P.O. box. Can you put it in there?" That's the only way that could happen. So someone would have to actually know about the retrieval of mail addressed to the NAACP. Would have to actually have worked or volunteer for the NAACP in Spokane under that scenario, or else there's another address somewhere else that I have not found that does list the P.O. box, and I'm wasting time here talking about this. Okay. So just addressing that issue. I mean, you can't really speculate that someone would walk in with the package in hand to be put into a P.O. box unless it was publicly known that they had a P.O. box to put it in. It, but at the same time, it could have. Yeah, it could just, they have receptacles. I don't know. I've never been to that post office, but most of the time outside the post office, there's actually the little blue thing you put the mail in outside the post office and in the lobby. There's other places you can do. I would assume there are other things you can do besides just handing it directly to a postal worker. Under that scenario, and I've wasted way too much time talking about that. Given what I read here, and this was as early as March actually, so I have to give myself more time. They may have decided back in February that they're no longer going to put the P.O. box on their webpage. Who knows? I mean, there's some room for error there, in other words. So let's get past that. So I could talk about that forever. Okay, so let's see. He asked me to see what could be done with the letter that had been sent to the victim. Sergeant Protactus told me that the victim, Rachel Dolezal, was the head of the Spokane chapter of the NAACP, and a threat letter had been sent to her P.O. box. Actually, the real distinction is the NAACP's P.O. box, of which she had access to, effectively hers for common colloquial. No big deal. Okay, I called up the CAD. I don't know what that is. Report from the incident. Maybe is that what this is? I'm not sure. The initial call came in 2010 hours and 2:25:05. There is your 2010. Okay. I don't know why I'm going into that much detail. It doesn't matter. Okay, so Dolezal called and requested a prowl check at her residence. That, I don't see any mention of prowl check in this room, but okay. Or I missed it. and I read it out loud and I missed it. It doesn't matter. She advised that she had received mail at a P.O. box that day, which was signed War Pig with extremely graphic pictures of guns and of complainant. She was worried that this unknown person would attempt to find her at her house. Dolezal further advised that the pictures included are of lynching and other hate-based crimes. Okay, again, so we have evidence that there was a hate letter. Now the right? I mean, and some people will say she didn't get any of these letters of this type at all. Some people going beyond that will say, well, she got the letters, but she faked them, which we'll get into. I don't think she did. Or I don't know. I'm not clear on what all the alternative explanations are, but for some reason the public has decided that she's been deceptive with regard to this report. And I'll get into the details, actually, as I remember them, or as they come up. Officer did respond to the Dolezal residence, take the initial report. He did collect the letter that was sent to the P.O. box belonging to the NAACP. This was placed on Spokane police property as evidence. There were no suspects, and Dolezal did not know who would send these items to her. Now, being the president of a chapter of the NAACP is you're somewhat publicly known, perhaps, based on what the contents of the web page says. You see here, President Rachel Dolezal. So, if you want to send a letter to the president of this chapter of the NAACP, you know who to address it to. It's public knowledge. It's placed in a public place where public people, the entire world could look at it and see that it's her listed as such. So they haven't changed the webpage in the last week. So the implication of that is that until such time where we know where the letters come from, the scope of suspects includes the entire world. Now we will have evidence to narrow that down, but literally, if there's no evidence on the envelope, it really could be the entire world. Anywhere you can send a letter from and have it arrive within 6 days. But there is a connection to Oakland. I shouldn't waste time on all that. Basically, the later letters will be postmarked from Oakland, but not the first letter. The first letter didn't have a postmark on it. And I'll get into all that, but we'll just read this stuff. A prowl check request was opened up, and officers did spend the weekend driving past her residence regularly. Sorry, a little asthma here. No suspicious people were ever. They didn't come across any suspicious people in her neighborhood. At 14:08 hours, so I guess, what is this? The 26th. So this was 6 minutes after he's off the phone with Sergeant Furtakis. Or was called initially. It might have been a 6-minute conversation. Catch my drift. He contacted Dolezal by telephone. I introduced myself to her and explained that I would be looking into the letter that had been sent to her. Dolezal said that she became the president of Spokane chapter on January 1st this year. She said that she involved with other similar organizations in Eastern Washington, North Idaho for many years. Am I getting this? Okay, it's a reasonably clear picture. Because of her involvement in these organizations, Dolezal said she had been the victim of numerous incidents of hate bias crimes over the past 5 years. She claimed that most of these types of incidents were caused by people affiliated with right-wing groups in our area. These crimes have been directed at both her and her sons. She has filed numerous police reports as a victim of these crimes. Dolezal told me she's in charge of picking up mail addressed to the NAACP at their P.O. box. Their box is located at the Rosewood Post Office on Monroe. As this location is a long way from her home, she does not check it on a regular basis. Dolezal told me that she had been approximately 1 week since she had last gone there and checked for mail. So let's see, what's the date here? A week before the 25th is what the 18th amount. Either she probably checked her mail. Excuse me. On the 16th or the 20th. Now, no letter is going to arrive from Oakland to Spokane in one day. I don't think. I'm no expert on timing, but it doesn't seem like, just in case that is to be considered, I would guess as just a normal person that's used the mail for a number of years that a letter is not going to arrive in one day. So why would we consider that? I don't know. I'm just addressing the issue in case someone wants to think about it. That's my input on it. Okay. Dolezal told me she picked up her mail at the post office at approximately 7:30 on 2/25/15. So basically, she got home. Don't know how long the drive is, but 40 minutes later, she's on the phone. Okay, so she has to drive home, set her stuff down, open up the letter, look at it, and then call the police. That's 40 minutes. That's not long at all. She immediately noticed a letter addressed to Spokane NAACP. It was a thick letter, and on the bottom was her name highlighted in yellow. She said that the return address on this letter said only War Pig. There was no address associated with it, and I'm wondering... No, that doesn't have it. So, Dolezal did open the letter. She told me that it was approximately 12 pages in length. She told me the letter was filled with pictures from the newspaper and the internet. There were photographs of her in the letter. Especially concerns or items in the letter which she uses in presentations. Now that, I think, is important. That really, to my mind, is problematic. She believed that this indicated whoever wrote the letter had watched her speak in person. So, here's a problem that we're going to have here. Is what I'm going to end up saying here, just so you could get your preview, is I'm going to say, well, someone didn't like what she said in Oakland, and as soon as she got on the plane, because there'll be evidence, there'll be more letters coming in from Oakland. As soon as she got on the plane, someone sent her this package we're talking about here, almost immediately. And, she took her a week to... So, who knows how many 2-3 days, the letter was sitting in her P.O. box, but... I would assume it was almost immediately. I mean, it couldn't be too late after she had left. It would need, to arrive. So we only have like a week time window. Okay, so for it to arrive at this place, we still have the issue about the address. I don't know anything about redirecting, whether the post office offers a service to redirect. Well, they have forwarding, don't they? But I don't know if they have permanent forwarding. They'll say, well, if this letter is addressed to this address here, just put it in our P.O. box. Don't know about that, but we're going to keep that in mind. But it's not unreasonable to think that shortly after she left, that by, 6 days later, when she went to her P.O. box, that there was a letter, and that letter could have come from Oakland. But there will be some issues to discuss here. Over the phone, he asked, of course he's not there to see it, he asked, wait, hold on. No, he might have been there. He might have been with because this first guy, didn't he take the letter with him? I placed the packet envelope on properties evidence. So whether this guy was able to look at it while he was asking her questions is unknown. I just don't know why he's asking her out of the blue here, whether the letter was handwritten, but he does. I haven't seen it. There's another letter that seems to be handwritten. That was later. This is a later date. This here, 4th of March. A couple weeks later, perhaps. So, she said that most of the letter was filled with photocopies of items copied off the internet. She did say that there were some handwritten notes on the letter. She specifically recalled seeing the statement, "still golfing on Wednesdays." She did not know what this referred to. Now, for this whole see, Dolezal doesn't say much. That's the problem. For this circumstance, I don't know. Let's get back to this conference here. The important question to ask is, what did people do at this ILEAA risk management in law enforcement event do? Was it a class? Did she make a presentation? Did she pass out materials? Did she have a booth? Is there any way that while she was it more or less public, or was it by admission by ticket only? Worst case scenario. People are walking in and out. It's a public event. There are booths, and Rachel's sitting there with Councilman Dominguez handing the very papers that will end up being sent to her in a hate letter in a few days. And one of the many passers-by picks it up, well, obviously. Second scenario is she has some time allotted to her to speak. She does her presentation. And that's how one of the people in the class literally was handed the papers as a handout, and they use this to send back to her. That's another scenario. A third scenario doesn't involve the conference at all. It couldn't. It just means someone knows her in Oakland, has her material in Oakland, and has sent it. And we're going to see this came from Oakland, because what the War Pig and the Still Golfing on Wednesdays does is establish a a series of just a little signature, I guess, that's not publicly known, that verifies the authenticity and connects the subsequent letters to the initial letters. So we know that the person that made the subsequent letters is the same person that made the initial letters. And we'll see that. So, but if she didn't bring any materials with her down to Oakland, didn't pass anything out, you have to wonder, how did this, is it just a coincidence that she had gone to Oakland and a week later after her return that someone independently who had listened to one of her talks at an earlier time decided at that moment that they were going to send her this hate letter? You begin all sorts of complications. That's so unclear. It almost begs the question: did she send it herself? I hate to say, but we have to consider everything. So there's not enough information here, and at least he isn't writing it down, and I don't know if she's telling him about it. Dolezal told me that there were references to Shorty Belton in the letter. She said that there was also a photograph of her talking about a sign in front of a business. Reference this case. I'm not sure what that means. I did ask Dolezal if there were any specific threats against her in the letter. She said that there were no written threats. However, there were photographs of people holding guns and pointing them at the reader. She said there were also the words "no more hesitation" in the letter. She also said that there were several photographs of African Americans being lynched by the letter. Dolezal did admit that these photographs appear to be the same ones that she uses in her presentations when discussing the history of racism. Okay, well, she needs to say where she has conducted those discussions. And if she did, the police officer didn't write that down. Back to this. I asked Dolezal if she had received any suspicious phone calls or noticed, or check to see where I'm at. A little bit of time here. I asked Dolezal if she received any suspicious phone calls or noticed anyone unusual following her recently. She said she hadn't. I asked her if she's ever met or heard of anyone who goes by the name Warpig. I think she would probably say that. If she knew a guy named Warpig, what's up, Warpig? She probably would tell the guy a little bit more about Warpig. This kind of rings of some doubt here. Okay. She told me that she has heard of a group called the War Pigs. So I believe they are a hate group that associates with meth dealers and they are violent. Okay. I asked Dolezal if she could think of anyone who had been to one of her recent speaking engagements that would be responsible for this letter. She told me that she had given a speech at Spokane Community College on January 16th. Here we go. Wait. Exactly a month before. The speech had been titled A Day of Dialogue, a History of Institutional Racism and Biased Policing. She claimed that there had been one white male who was outspoken, borderline attacking me during the discussion period. She said that this was the only time she had seen this male. She did not know who this person was or how I could locate them. Okay, now here's the deal. The evidence is going to show that this is what I'm going to conclude. I'm going to conclude as a preview, but it's not. What do you say? Basically, the evidence is ambiguous enough that we can't say with anything with absolute certainty here. But I'm going to say that it seems to be that the most likely thing that happened is that someone had sent her this letter from Oakland around the time of this conference or shortly thereafter from Oakland. And she didn't do any presentations in Oakland. One wonders who would have left Spokane Community College between the 16th and the 19th and also been in Oakland, not only on this particular weekend, but as the letters will show, still golfing, here it is, in June, postmark in Oakland. Someone with primarily with a residence in Oakland has her teaching materials. So what was this person doing up at Spokane Community College in January? It doesn't make any sense. Why would someone that was present in Spokane Community College in January just happen to be in Oakland when she was there, and then just happen to mail her a hate letter around the time she just happened to be there, that just happened to arrive at the post office under the rare circumstances that the postage didn't have a cancellation on it, and there was no barcode from it going through the processing centers will be described in this evidence. That's quite a fucking coincidence. So who else was there? Another explanation could be that that the letter was mailed locally while she was away in Oakland, and arrangements were made to send the letters from Oakland later on. But again, it's a long distance from Oakland to Spokane. It's not like you could just drive there in a day, unless you drive like probably 12 hours. Just I would guess. So, um, whoever would have done this would have, or there'd be an accomplice in Oakland, but who would know someone in Oakland? So, kind of wondering about this whole thing about the Spokane Community College. I told Dolezal I had not seen the letter. I asked her, and that makes sense because that's why I asked her if it was in writing. I asked her if there was anything else in the letter which could help me identify the person who may have sent it. She told me that the one thing she thought was odd was that the letter did not have a date stamp on it. She believed that this would indicate the letter had been hand-delivered to the post office. Now, I'm just, I really have to wonder. I really do have to wonder whether she had brought any of those materials with her to Oakland and left it in Oakland. It's really hard to draw a geographical connection between these two places. It almost seems to me as if someone noticed her in Oakland while she was in Oakland. I think the letter made it from Oakland. But we don't know for sure. And we don't have... On the original letter, we do not have a cancellation. It's just we don't have that. We don't have that benefit. We do place the war pig in Oakland later on. And that's in not too much later. As we can see here from the other letters that were received. That isn't very clear. This is May 6th on it. These were printed out May 5th. What's this? May 6th. A series of letters were sent out to the Spokesman Review, the NAACP, so May 6th. Now, it could have been that someone was, perhaps a student, was going to Spokane Community College, or was a student at Eastern Washington University, went to this event, subsequently dropped out of the school, was home in Oakland, or home near Oakland in February, and apparently knew she was coming down and had the materials from before and then pulled this shit. That's another possibility. Another possibility is one has to wonder whether these materials are just merely available for download. So when you go to a conference like this, perhaps, and if perhaps you're given a name badge that says who you are or where you're from, and you say something at this meeting that annoys someone else for whatever reason, then they go look you up on the internet and they find your materials that you use and they download it, then we don't have a geographical restriction. We have basically her capturing the attention of someone that is the kind of person that will send hate letters while she was there for the 2 days she was in Oakland. That seems to make the most sense to me. And it doesn't seem to be a coincidence that so some of these apparently were from. Oh, they were later. You have these internet things. Come on. Some of these had date stamps on the bottom. This. It's too late. So that was much later. Okay. So I don't know. But if she doesn't have any teaching materials on the internet, scratch that off the list. There's something weird going on here. Literally. We're talking about one person in Spokane either having a reason to travel down to Oakland, and it's so goddamn coincidental that really confuses things. Or an accomplice, you know. You have a friend living down in Oakland, you know, whoever, perhaps this person, this white male, was attacking her, has a friend down in Oakland and sends the materials that was passed out to someone in Oakland, and then, but still, it's one hell of a coincidence that it was sent around the time she was there, you know. Keep going in circles here. Okay, she believed that it could indicate the letter had been hand delivered to the post office. Now, this is an assumption that they followed. My general feeling, this is just a leap of faith. You know, I'm having some doubts about where that first letter was addressed from. Now that I'm thinking about these facts more, but I have assumed that the first letter, like the rest of them, were sent from Oakland. It seems to make the most sense to me. She could have brought some of her materials there and left it in her hotel room, along with her name badge. I mean, who knows? Who knows? It seems to be somewhat of a mystery. Okay. Well, there's another explanation. In some of these other documents, it's going to say that there was a private detective that was investigating certain things. That will come up. And who knows whether this private detective had an associate down in Oakland, and who knows whether this private detective was checking things out at Spokane Community College on January 16th through 19th. This is extraordinarily complicated, but it just doesn't make any fucking sense. She would have had to have, by chance, met someone. There's too many iffy things that happened, but it's not impossible that she could have run into the wrong person that happened to be attending this class, not out of the desire to learn what it taught, but instead to find targets. You know, who annoyed me the most today? Okay, let's mess with them, kind of thing. And would have had to have gotten some of her materials, and it doesn't sound like, I mean, wouldn't she say that? Or wouldn't he write it down in his report? One would think he would write that down in his report. I'm going to check to see where I'm at. Okay, I'm going to start another one now.